everybody, welcome to my channel and welcome to another ASMR film chat / film recommendation video. In tonight's video, I'm going to be focusing on a list of movies that hit me deep. Now, when I'm talking about movies that hit me deep, I'm talking about movies that made a huge impression on me. Usually these movies are movies that I cannot stop thinking about till this day. Movies that I felt that a lot of the times could explain me things about myself or about the human experience that only could explain through art. This is also the reason why I really appreciate and love filmmaking as a form of art. I really love when films have a plot that is hard to understand, that isn't specifically narrative based, and that has underneath that a lot of complexity and hidden messages. And if you have been watching my videos lately, then you kind of maybe start to understand what type of movies I'm drawn to and why. Now, I really love making these videos because it's a good opportunity for me also to digest some of these films and write my thoughts and do kind of a brainstorm with myself to understand what exactly in these movies touched me. And I feel that going through this process of film analysis is also in a certain way of going through a process of understanding life and just like understanding the human experience. So these interpretation of mine are going to be very subjective to my own personal thoughts and my own personal living experience. If you are thinking differently than me, or if you have anything else you want to add or anything else you want to share, you are more than welcome to drop a comment in the comment section below. I'm going to also link my Letterboxd account in the description box. So if you are interested in seeing or hearing more of my ongoing movie reviews or movie recommendations, you're more than welcome to follow the journey there. I post there on a weekly basis. I would say like 4 times a week, maybe even more. And I haven't got the chance to log in all the movies that I've ever watched in my life because I just opened the account a few months ago. But I am working on this slowly but surely. But I really invite you also to join me there on Letterboxd. Now, without further ado, let's kick it off. I have here my notebook, and I'm going to be taking a look every now and then because I have added here a few notes for the movies that I have. And let's start. The first movie that I have on the list is a movie that is very close to my heart. This is The Worst Person in the World. It's a movie from 2021, and you might have heard about this movie just because of Sentimental Value, who gained a lot of popularity last year when it came out. So it's basically the same director and the same main actress. She's incredible, he's incredible, and their collaboration is honestly unmatched. But if you liked Sentimental Value, I cannot recommend you enough of The Worst Person in the World. So, The Worst Person in the World is a Norwegian movie, and it is a type of rom-com, but it's not a regular American Hollywoodian rom-com. It has more of like dramatic features to it. So we are essentially following a woman. She's in her late 20s, early 30s. Her name is Julie. And we follow her as she navigates life through the options that she has. She's very inconsistent with her decision making, which means that she oftentimes switches between careers, schools, and there is a lot of like she's very lost. She feels very lost, and it also come across with her relationships and the men that she picks. Now, I would say the first thing that I really liked about this movie is how accurate it can describe a feeling of like a coming out of age at your late 20s and early 30s, which is something that definitely happens, but not a lot of people talk about that. And I think that that is what makes this movie so special and unique in the way that it perceives modern life, especially with women. And another reason why I really love this movie, and it's such a gem of a movie because it is so funny, it is so hilarious, but it is very heartbreaking. It's very subtle with its message. It's not overly judging Julie for some of the decisions that she's taking. It just absorbs her without judging her. And it just captures her life and the things that she's going through. And I think a lot of people can really, really resonate with that and with Julie's character and can relate to her feelings. And it kind of helps people feel more free. Now, talking about freedom, I think this movie overall puts a very interesting mirror in front of us and in front of this modern life, where at one hand you feel that you have a lot of option as a person. You can study whatever you want, you can be with whoever you want, and if you don't want to be with that person anymore, you can just be with another person. And if you don't want to go to this school anymore, you can just theoretically switch to another school. And a lot of people tend to get really lost because of that, because this options can put a lot of pressure on them of what decision is the right decision and which kind of decision I need to take. And this freedom actually puts a lot of pressure on one person, and I think this movie captures that so well. It almost like the more options you have, the more hard it becomes to understand where exactly you belong. And so many people feel this way in modern life, in the Western society, of people in their early 20s, of unable to decide what they want to study, or people unable to commit to a certain relationship. And this movie shows that so beautifully, and it shows in such a very honest way what it means to be lost in life. The cinematography of this movie is incredible. I think this is one of the first things that you notice when you see this movie, is how beautiful everything looks. The main actress, so incredible. She has a very unique and special qualities to her that I think are missing a lot in Hollywood right now, and I think this is what really makes her stand out at the moment. She's very simple, gentle, and subtle, but very, very moving and powerful. I cried so much in this movie, and I also cried a lot in Sentimental Value. I think her performance is so authentic, raw, and real, and almost like not overly performed, that I personally really appreciate. The next movie is one of the most beautiful movies that I've ever seen in my life, and it's Sing Sing from 2023. And I remember when it came out, I watched this movie on theater, and I was so blown away from the movie and how powerful this movie was, how unique of a concept this movie was. And I was also really, really shocked till this day, like almost 3 years later, with the fact that not a lot of people talked about this movie. And I remember that I lived in New York, and a lot of my friends that really love movies just never got a chance to see it. And I was just so shocked because I think that this movie is gonna be like a modern masterwork classic. It is just such a special, one-of-a-kind movie. It's basically a movie about a group of men, prisoners, in a prison named Sing Sing. And they basically attend a theater program. And it's such a beautiful story because the name of the prison is Sing Sing, and it's a real prison that is located in upstate New York. And one of the most beautiful things of this movie is the fact that a lot of the actors that played in this movie were actually prisoners from the actual real Sing Sing jail, and they actually attended this theater program. Now, I was shocked because the acting was incredible, was so unique and raw and outstanding in my opinion. I think that personally, to me, I'm so drawn to directors who take these kinds of decisions and choices. I understand that it's a gamble, but I think that the reward can be very, very high of taking non-professional actors or sometimes even non-actors as actors. It just adds a whole nother level of raw and authenticity to the movie, in my opinion. Now, through this movie, at the center of it, we're following a character. His name is Divine G. Coleman Domingo plays Divine G, and Coleman Domingo is incredible. Wow, this actor, like honestly, I could not stop crying. I was so emotionally after this movie. I was just, it was honestly incredible. And this character, Divine G, he's basically imprisoned for a crime that he didn't commit. And it is such a gentle, beautiful movie because it shows how this group of prisoners basically find meaning in this theater club. And through acting, they can connect to some hidden parts in themselves, like pain, regret, shame, where in a place where they don't have physical freedom, through this theater program, they can still achieve a certain level of inner freedom through acting and through connecting to deeper and hidden parts in themselves. And seeing them go through that transformation in this movie, and knowing that the people that took part of this movie and the actress of this movie actually went through that thing themselves, and it isn't just a movie, it's actually real life. It's so moving and it's so incredible to see, and it just lifts me up completely. And it's not all butterflies and sunshine in this movie. There are some really, really hard parts, heartbreaking parts about the cruelty of the justice system, the crime system, and the prison system. Divine G, as I mentioned, was basically in this prison for a crime that he didn't commit. And he is building a case to get himself released from this prison. And he is a really good person. He honestly thinks that if he is going to do everything good, then he will receive good. And as he should think, but unfortunately that's not the case in life, and definitely not in such bureaucratical places and cruel places where the system judges people. And there is a specific scene where he attends the interview with a person trying to understand whether he is telling the truth, whether he did commit the crime or not. And he's being so honest with her, with telling his story, but she's mistaken him for performing. She thinks that he is performing at this very moment. And the shock in his face was devastating, of understanding how she easily judges him, how she easily and quickly labels him. And I think it says so much about the system and how easily people can be reduced to a certain version based on how the system sees them. I think this is an extremely powerful movie. It's a movie that I will not forget easily. I think it made a huge impact on me, and I think it can really educate people about the reality of certain systems that we live in. The next movie that I have on my list is such an incredible, touching movie. It is Shoplifters by the amazing director Hirokazu Koreeda. This is a movie from 2018, and it is definitely one of my favorites by Koreeda. Koreeda is a Japanese director who has some of the most beautiful, gentle movies I've ever seen. He has such a unique way of creating films, and he's specifically focusing on family concepts, and he's playing a lot with family concepts. Shoplifters is a story about a group of people who they're basically living on the margin of society. And this group of people form a very unconventional family. And this group of people, they're not really related by blood. It's more of like people that they found on the street. So you technically have two grown-ups and kids, and these grown-ups, they are not the best role model example. So for example, they teach the kids on how to steal, and this is how they basically make their living. But also on the other hand, they are very loving and caring, and you can really tell immediately that they have a very special bond between them, and that they're very close to one another, and that they truly, truly care of one another. And one day they came across a girl on the street, and they decide to take her in. It's a heartbreaking story, I will not lie. Unfortunately, it forces you to face reality with some really challenging life circumstances that people that live on the margin of society have. But I don't want to go into the plot too much, but essentially this is the main plot of the movie, of them taking care of that young girl, child that they found. This young girl that they found on the street was in a very bad condition of neglection, and they took her in, and they provided for her, and they loved her, and they took care of her. Now, it is astonishing to see the way that Koreeda plays with the term of what is family. So is family only a relationship of blood? It's only blood connection, or can we also choose the family? So is your family because you were born to one, or can you also choose who your family is? And I think this is the reason why this movie really, really stayed with me. It's, on one hand, you follow this group of people that are obviously not the most incredible role models as grown-ups. They're obviously very unstable, and they don't always take the best decisions, and they put the kid's life in danger many times. But also, on the other hand, they love them, they care for them, and you can sense that immediately. They give her something, they give something to this girl and to the other kids, something that they never had in their family, in their real family. So it makes you question overall on what is good, what is bad, what is the correct way. and what's not. And I think this is the reason why Koreeda keeps this movie open, and that there is no clear resolutions and that there are no answers. I think it's a gem of a movie. I think it's such a special movie. It's the way that he picks the actors. You almost don't feel that it's a movie. You almost feel like there is a hidden camera somewhere and you're just watching them go on with their life. It's so not overly performed, but it is so deep and it's so moving that you cannot stay numb to it. You'll feel the movie very powerfully, I think. So highly recommend that. This movie really affected me deep. The next movie that I have on my list is The Tale of Princess Kaguya by Studio Ghibli. This is a movie from 2013, so it's a quite new movie. At least for me, most of the movies that I watched by Ghibli were old ones from the 90s or early 2000s. I also watched a bunch of movies from the 80s. And this is not by Miyazaki, this is by the other director. His name is Isao Takata. And this movie is incredible, and I don't know how there's like no hype around this movie. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this movie when they bring Studio Ghibli. I think, in my opinion, this movie is going to be my all-time favorite of Studio Ghibli. And don't get me wrong, I love Studio Ghibli and I watched a lot of their movies. I love Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away and Kiki's Delivery Service. This movie is something else. It's very, very, very special. And I can definitely see the differences between both directors. So Isao Takata has also directed Graves of the Fireflies. If you have seen Graves of the Fireflies, you know that this movie is very, very different. It's not a classic Ghibli movie. It's a heartbreaking anti-war movie. It's not for kids for sure. It's very, very graphic and intense. This movie, I think kids can watch it, but it's so deep and complex that it's just honestly blew me away. The Tale of Princess Kaguya essentially is based on a very well familiar Japanese tale. The name of the tale is The Bamboo Cutter, and it follows the story of this bamboo cutter that one day discovers a small girl / baby inside of a glowing bamboo stalk. He gets the baby, he's very, very excited. He immediately feels that it's a blessing from God, and he immediately thinks that this girl is very special and is a princess. He gets her back home. His wife is also very happy. They both are childless and they decide to raise the girl. We immediately understand that this girl is very special. She grows up very fast. Like physically, she grows up very fast. She's very beautiful and everybody is like really shocked with how beautiful she is. She's also very smart. They live in the nature, so she's like a nature girl. She really loves to spend time outside in the nature, in the flowers, with the animals and the bugs and the trees, and playing around. A tomboy, I would say, a very free-spirited girl. A girl that brings sun to everywhere that she's going to. A very, very special, special girl. Now the father has this idea that because she's very special, she needs to live in the city, in the capital, and not in the nature, because she's a princess and they need to help her become a noble woman, noble princess. So they decide to move as a family to the capital and raise her there. They also get a lot of money from this bamboo stock that they found the girl in, so that's also something that makes the father believe that they need to go and live in like a castle and help her become the princess that she's supposed to be. The movie has this gorgeous watercolor animation, and I think this is one of the most artistic, beautiful things I've ever seen. It is done really, really well. It's a very artistic movie at any perspective, at any layer. The story progresses because the family starts to shape her to what they think that she should be and not to what she wants to be. So she starts to grow up and feel very disconnected from the life that she actually wants. I don't want to ruin the plot much. It's such a deep story. It's essentially a story about what it means to be alive and what it means to live here in this world, experiencing a lot of bad things, experiencing a lot of darkness, experiencing evil, but still understanding that sometimes that is part of what it means to be alive and what it means to feel. And it's a beautiful story about her making that choice to be here in this life, regardless of all the bad things, because she wanted to feel what it means to be alive. It's a story about choosing a life that is messy, imperfect, human, with all its pain and all the contradiction. But it's the only way where we actually can feel what it means to be here and what it means to be alive. It's also a story about how the world sometimes can pull you away from yourself, and how sometimes even love and good intention from people we love can shape us to something that we're not. It has a lot of devastating things in this movie, but what I really liked about this movie and what I really liked about Ghibli is that these are real things that are happening as they are in real life. These are not illusions, but they still always show us that there is still light to be found here. And to me, it is uplifting for me. For me, this is a feel-good movie. That's what I need. I don't need a movie to sell me illusions or happy endings where it is so far from the reality that I'm living in. And that's to me what makes me feel alive when I see this type of movies. There is a specific scene in this movie. If you have seen that, then I want to mention it because I would love to hear your thoughts. It's the running scene where the animation almost breaks. The watercolor animation becomes like an abstract work of art where the brushing strokes are almost like one stroke, and it's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. And it obviously has the beautiful music of Joe Hisaishi, which is the main composer for most of the Ghibli movies. He's an incredible musician with his orchestra. The music is absolutely incredible. This is a piece of art of movie. I highly recommend that. If you have watched it, please let me know in the comments what you thought. I think we are moving forward to the last movies that I have on my list. Both of the last movies are art house movies. It means that we are progressing to some more abstract and plotless and more complex movies. And this movie is one of my all-time favorite movies that I also talked about in this channel. This is the gorgeous movie Autumn Sonata. Autumn Sonata is a movie from 1978 by Ingmar Bergman. It's a story about a famous pianist who comes to visit her daughter after many years that they were apart. Over the course of a few days, old wounds resurface and they finally confront everything that's left unsaid. It's a very intense movie. It's a movie about confrontation between a mother and a daughter after years of trauma, wounds. I was blown away by this movie, by the simplicity of the movie and the intensity of the script and the dialogue. Because the movie is basically set across several days. It's like a weekend. A very simple set. It's the daughter's house. She's like 40 years old. So the set is basically only their living room, their kitchen, the bedroom. Very, very simple set, small rooms. It's so intimate, but you are immediately glued to this movie. The movie is slowly building up to one major scene where the mother and the daughter finally confront with one another. The daughter is basically just sharing all of her pain, all of her trauma, all of her disappointment from the mother who was very absent through the daughter's childhood. And the daughter is just wanting her mother to finally see her and understand the amount of pain that she caused. But the mother just cannot see that. It's almost like she has limits. She doesn't understand that. And I wrote here, it's about longing to be seen by your parent and the pain of not receiving that. It's a devastating story about a daughter and a mother who are trying to understand one another. Ingmar Bergman is such a great director, and this is my favorite movie of his because he does that in such a complex way where he's not judging either of these. We get to understand the mother perspective as well, although all the pain and all of our mistakes. The mother, by the way, who plays the mother is Ingrid Bergman, who is fantastic and incredible. And the daughter is played by Liv Ullmann, which both are so powerful and incredible actress. They're really something else. And it's such an intense movie. There's a lot of dialogue. It's very heavy. There's a lot of close-ups to the faces. And it's almost like you're sitting them with your own, it's almost like you're sitting there with them inside the room and you're in the situation with them. You have no way to escape out of this. And it can be very uncomfortable to watch. To me personally, I felt in a way that it was healing. I felt that I was very moved by the dialogue and the writing of this movie. I felt that, first of all, Ingmar Bergman is a genius for writing that and being able to be so accurate and precise about this experience that a lot of the time it is so hard to put in words because it is such a complex human being experience. A relationship, a traumatic relationship between a child and a parent. It's not an easy thing. And he did that very, very well. It was incredible. It's a masterwork of movie. I could not stop crying. I cannot stop thinking about Ingrid Bergman's faces or the things that Liv Ullmann said. It's incredible. But it is a very heavy movie. It's not a movie that I would watch every now and then. It is painful to watch. But it is raw and it is real and it's authentic and it's not overly explained, and it talks about a human experience very, very well. And as a result of this, I feel free in a way. So I highly recommend this movie if you haven't watched that. It's a masterpiece. Last movie on my list is actually one of my all-time favorite movies. I think this is the movie that made the most impact on me, and this is Beau Travail from 1999 by Claire Denis. It's a movie that I've watched several times, and it's a movie that I still think about a lot. I don't know what exactly in this movie moved me so much, but it is incredible. This film basically follows a former French Legion officer played by Denis Lavant, the incredible Denis Lavant. And this officer is leading a group of soldiers, a troop in East Africa. So the set of the movie is in East Africa. It's incredible. First of all, the first thing that you see when you start watching this movie is the gorgeous, one-of-a-kind cinematography. This movie is very artistic. It's very plotless, but it's visually super powerful. It tells you a very visual story. It's a visual storytelling. So if I'm comparing that to Autumn Sonata, for example, in Beau Travail there is minimal dialogue, minimal conversations. It's mostly this French officer reflecting on his time back when he was in East Africa with this group of soldiers. So he's having this personal dialogue with himself and he's kind of journaling and thinking and reflecting on the past. One day a new soldier joins the group, and then this officer starts to feel this intense emotions of jealousy, almost uncontrolled emotions of jealousy. And this movie is about that, is about toxic emotions like jealousy, desire, control, revenge, and to what it can lead to very bad consequences. I don't want to talk much about this movie because it's just such a unique experience that I think you should definitely come to it very clean. When I watched this movie for the first time, it was a little bit hard for me to understand much about what was going on. But I think when I really understood what was going on in this movie is in the ending scene. I think this movie has the most beautiful ending scene I've ever seen. And it's when Denis Lavant dances. And this is such a perfect scene. I think this is one of my all-time favorite movie scenes. It's so powerful because this man is so rigid and such a control freak that in this ending scene he finally gets to dance, and he dances in such a free and liberating way and beautiful way that it is so powerful, it is so moving. And I could really relate to this on a personal level of letting go of everything and finally dancing. It was like such a high feeling of all of those repressed and restrained emotions finally loosening up. And when I watched the movie for the second time, I completely fell in love with this movie. I think this movie in general has a very interesting approach to men experience. It is directed by a woman, so her perspective about men and soldiers and war is so interesting, and this movie is so feminine. We see them do a lot of their routines and rituals, like they're practicing a lot, they're fighting, they're working out, and immediately it feels so artistic, this movement that they keep on doing. almost like a dance. So that was my first thought. And then when I saw a couple of interviews, I realized that the group of men that were playing in this movie were actually dancers, and the entire acts were by a choreograph, like a ballet choreograph, which was really interesting to see that perspective toward masculinity. And I think this movie is about deconstruction of masculinity, and a movie about masculinity from like a woman perspective in like a more feminine atmosphere. It is such a powerful movie that it's hard for me to put in words what I think, but I have heard This Is the Rhythm of the Night after this movie for weeks. I'm not lying. Every day for weeks. I think the choice of the song is so accurate because the song is so, it's like a club song, right? It used to be a club song from the 90s. So it's very uplifting. It's a song that you can dance to, but it also has a very sad tone, and that connection felt so powerful to this ending scene that I think whoever picked this dance and scene and song did a masterful work, because I cannot stop thinking about that. If you have watched this movie, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And that is all for tonight. I really hope you enjoyed. As always, would love to hear your thoughts of anything, and I really hope that you have a good night, and thank you so much for being here.